Well, everybody, I did not expect it to be this fast. I thought that the mask was going to stay on, honestly, for as long as they could possibly keep it on. The main way that conservatives got into power in the first place was by convincing a critical amount of people that the things the left said about the right were over-exaggerations or were lies. And now that the Republicans are so in power that they are completely unmitigated, they have no one to stand in their way, right? You would think they would try to keep the mask on, and not only that, but heavily try to refocus people's anger at them for the problems they're facing in this country now, more towards, like, someone else, just redirecting blame. Obviously, right now, America is already off to a bad start with Trump's presidency. I think we had 4 more plane crashes today, if I'm not mistaken. We'll have to look into that a little more later. That's a separate segment from this one. But things are off to a pretty bad start. But I expected the mask to stay on. I expected there to be a general attempt to try and maintain as much popular support for the regime for as long as possible. I think there's been 4, maybe not 4 more today. Regardless, though, Donald Trump has apparently appointed someone as head of the Pentagon that has now banned observances of Black History Month, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Pride Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, and a good handful of other civil rights related days of recognition or holidays. And so this is definitely a step in a very blatant direction. I feel like Donald Trump would not have ran on this as an issue. I really don't. So I'm curious to see how much the sanity washing is going to go. We've already got a couple chuds in chat by the looks of things, so I'm excited to see what the excuses are for why this isn't hateful. Or maybe it'll just be, like, very overt. Maybe they'll just say, yeah, haha, fuck minorities, we wanted this. Maybe that's what they're gonna say. Maybe they won't even try to defend it.
We're following breaking news from Washington, where as part of President Trump's pushback on diversity and inclusion initiatives, NBC News has learned that the Defense Intelligence Agency has ordered a pause on all events related to MLK Day or Black History Month, which we should note begins tomorrow. Joining us now with more, NBC News senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell, Atlantic staff writer Ashley Parker, and Aaron Haynes, editor-in-chief at the 19th. So, Kelly, this follows a string of anti-DEI initiatives and messaging from the White House. What's this one about?
Well, certainly what we're seeing is that in this particular agency, the defense...
So, for those that don't know, because I feel like I need to give a little background here so people know how we got to this point. DEI is an acronym that stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And this is a term that gained a lot of popularity in legal parlance about 5 or 6 years ago. Ironically enough, it really started to get big under Trump's first term. And the idea behind it was recognizing that despite equal accomplishments, people who are part of certain groups tended to have less of a likelihood of getting hired, not out of any merit-based reasons, but due to bias. This can range all the way from, like, college admissions workers having a bias based on names. There have been studies that prove if you have a name that sounds black, you are less likely to get approved to or accepted into a college than someone with the same exact credentials and grade with a name that is very white sounding, right? And so, knowing these things, there have been attempts programs known as diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Not really programs. It's probably a misnomer that's been popularized by the right. It's a better way of referring to it would be guidelines. Not rules, but guidelines. The idea is to try and eliminate the amount of bias that might affect the likelihood of being hired, being accepted, or into any position or to a school or whatever, and not just get rejected because of your identity and the bias that exists there. Now, there have been some who've made the case that due to the way that most DEI guidelines tend to operate, that it actually gives an unfair advantage to certain groups. And in some cases, this is true. There have actually been studies conducted where they found fairly conclusively that in the case of college admissions, there was a situation where if you were a very high achieving Asian American, the standards had been set unreasonably high for you, and a white woman who comes from a well-off, like, suburban situation may be more likely to get a position than you, despite having the same qualifications, because of the lean towards selecting someone who is part of a DEI initiative, right? And people have made the argument this is unfair, and I think the feeling that that is unfair is not unreasonable. I think a lot of people are quick to immediately say, oh, you're racist if you think that alone is a problem or an issue or that makes you uncomfortable. That's not the issue. The problem is an existing instance of people feeling like things are a little bit weighted against them, particularly straight white dudes feeling like things are weighted against them, were the perfect market to say, hey, DEI isn't just a thing that exists in college admissions and certain job positions that is frankly not very likely to ever affect your life. Instead, they framed it as this takeover of our government and institutions that is making it impossible for someone who's just a straight white guy who works hard to get by, because someone who works less hard, who's just part of a minority group, will just get in easier anyway. Well, the chuds that were in chat are now Jew posting, so it seems like the response, the defense, is to just mask off being Nazis. I guess they're not doing the defense on this line, but obviously people are radicalized from, hey, these DEI programs seem a little unfair, to there can no longer be civil rights recognition. Now civil rights is DEI. And it started to be that extreme a couple years back. Like, it didn't take long for it to go from some people having some level of reasonable feelings that maybe DEI programs are unfair to them, to using it as a catch-all defense for racist rhetoric.
Intelligence agency. There is a memo that has been distributed to staff members making clear that the agency will not support any celebration, commemoration, events associated with Black History Month, Martin Luther King Day, and so forth. Now, Martin Luther King Day is enshrined in federal law as a federal holiday, so it's unclear what that means in terms of how that would be observed. Federal workers do not have to come to work on a federal holiday, to state the obvious. So one of the questions we hope to learn more about is how widespread is this approach? President Trump has been very clear in his public statements and in his use of various instruments with a pen, meaning a memo or an executive order or the various things that we've been seeing him sign since he came into office, very clearly saying that he wants to root out DEI programming and hiring-related practices and so forth. And as he has described it, he wants the best people, regardless of what they look like or how they speak or how they live. And so is this a broad policy that will affect all parts of the federal government?
So, interestingly, the narrative from Trump is not that they're mass firing people who are part of certain groups. Like, for instance, Trump literally issued an executive order that is going to mandate the firing of people with any disabilities from the FAA, and from flight traffic control, air traffic control, and whatnot. So if you've ever had, any missing body part, it could be an ear, an eye, a finger, an arm, a leg. Apparently you're not fit to work a desk job in the federal government now. they're also moving to include dwarfism. You can't take these federal positions if you have dwarfism now, because supposedly, because they have those disabilities, or because they're part of a marginalized group or whatever, these employees must have been DEI hires. That is what is assumed, and that is why these large, widespread firings have been happening pretty indiscriminately, and why we're now suffering the consequences of that.
Or was this the interpretation of a given agency to be in alignment with the White House? Part of what this new Trump administration has been trying to do is to get the federal workforce to be in step with President Trump's priorities and his view of how the federal government should operate in a broad array of areas, and included in that is handling matters that deal with diversity, equity, and inclusion programming. And they have rooted out those programs for funding to say those will no longer be funded. But things like Black History Month, which are celebrated in many different contexts, in workplaces, in communities, and so forth. So we have more questions here about what does this mean, and how will the federal workforce note what have been longstanding practices in American culture to honor Black History Month and other kinds of initiatives that lift up parts of our large community, whether it's persons with disabilities, whether it's women's issues, the whole array of things. But at the moment, because as you point out, February 1st begins Black History Month, how will it play out on the federal level? That's part of what we're trying to pursue. We have evidence now of an agency saying no activities, and we want to find out how broad it is.
Well, damn, dude. I did not expect it to be this overt this fast, you know? Less than 20 days in, and Trump is already freezing celebrations of Pride Month and Black History Month. Let's read the comments. I'm always curious to see what the comments are like, because they're either absolute dog shit, or they're full of people that seem to have had a moment of sanity, thankfully. Oh wait, that's the name of a person who hates me. Anyway, I'm really curious what Black Trump voters have to say about this. There are not many of them. The playbook was written, and it was called Project 2025. Nobody listened, so here we are. That's right. This guy is so focused on turning everyone against each other. Quote, a man who stands for nothing will fall for anything. Malcolm X. As a U.S. Army veteran, I can tell you this is going to cause divisions within our own military. Ooh, that's a bit of a foreboding idea. Don't care. Black people are still going to celebrate. Trump can have a seat. True. That is true. Trump can, like, recognize all these holidays as much as he likes, but people are still going to celebrate. Harder than ever before, in fact. You know, like this, Trump trying to cancel Pride Month is just going to guarantee that this June's Pride Month is going to be the biggest one ever. That's how it works, okay? The last thing you want to do, if you're annoyed by gay people being prideful, the last thing you want to do is give them more reason to be prideful. Like, you're not going to win in the long run. You're not going to eliminate gay people. You're not going to eliminate trans people. They're always going to be there. And even if you do like a mass genocide, if Trump does like some mass genocide of gay and trans people, there will still be gay and trans people. They will never win at their goal of eliminating what they consider this sickness. And all that will happen is that in the long run, people will look back at events like that, and it will empower them even further to protect and respect these groups. They may get like some W's now. They may be able to oppress some people now, but it always backfires in the end. And there's always more freedom in the end game than there was before. Also, they have to permanently waste resources on getting rid of those people that they can't get rid of ever. Yeah, fair. They can't stop us, yeah. Listen, there's never... Trump and his cronies are not going to win at destroying the existence of trans or gay people. They're not going to succeed at destroying the existence of Black history and, you know, like civil rights. They're not going to win in the long run. They're just not. Always remember that. SC, thank you for the $5. Says, just for Trump, I'm going to read a book about Robert Smalls this month. Google him, he's awesome. Robert Smalls. Robert Smalls was an American politician who was born into slavery in Beaufort, South Carolina. During the American Civil War, the still enslaved Smalls commandeered a Confederate transport ship, and let's read more, in Charleston Harbor, and sailed it from the Confederate-controlled waters of the harbor to the U.S. blockade that surrounded it. He then piloted the ship to the Union-controlled enclave in Beaufort, Port Royal, Hilton Head area, and their families. His example and persuasion helped convince President Abraham Lincoln to accept African-American soldiers into the Union Army. Okay, I think I have heard of him then, because I know that, I knew that Abe Lincoln was not, the Civil War, Abe was not all on that whole "this war is to end slavery" bit for a while into the war, okay? Like, the war was going on for a while, and the North was not doing the whole, "yeah, we're ending slavery" bit. It was a lot more about the fact that they didn't need slavery. They put some somewhat, like, good, non-slavery-friendly rules into place, mostly having to do with, like, territory dispute than anything, more so than slavery is the core issue. But for the South, slavery was the core issue. They wanted more places to do slavery in, and that's why they seceded from the Union. And for Lincoln and the North, it was mostly just like, oh, fuck these traitors, like they're trying to run off, they're trying to break off and take all this land. Like, no. And it wasn't until very late in that like, this is a war against slavery became a big talking point, mostly as propaganda, because the British were going to support the Confederacy. Never forget that, by the way. The Confederacy was on, like within, like, a week or something, the British was going to be sending, like, an enormous fleet to back up the Confederacy. And it would have been bad. And so, like, when Abe Lincoln came out to say this is a war to end slavery, the British were like, ooh, okay, sorry, Confederacy, we don't want to be the ones fighting against, like, we got rid of slavery a little while ago. We don't want to, we don't want to push that look. Anyway, Donald Trump being so overt like this is honestly surprising to me. I'm not going to lie. I haven't been surprised by a lot of what's happened over the last 15 days or so, but man, this in particular is just extreme. Like, I woke up this morning and some buddies of mine in voice chat were like, yo, did you hear about this? And I was like, no fucking way. No way. He didn't do that. No. Trump's not that overt about it, right? I'm surprised he's going this fast. Yeah. Like, I thought that it was going to be at least a year before we're at the point where Trump was just, like, letting the mask slip. But damn, it's just right out the gate. It's crazy. Moment of Sanity, don't hate Zan, asking Moment of Sanity directly. Okay, maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. I apologize. My bad. In the end, the US will become 25 different countries. I don't think that America's gonna break apart or have any secessions because of this, but man, this is definitely more extreme than what I expected so quick out of the gate. But hey, we shouldn't be surprised. Project 2025 was right there. We knew Trump was fascist. We should never let ourselves be surprised when Trump does fascist things. These were all a given, and we all saw it coming from a mile away. Anyway, if any of you guys liked this video, if you enjoyed it or found it entertaining, then please consider leaving a like, as every single thumbs up you leave on my videos and streams, especially my streams when I'm live, goes a long way to boost my channel in the algorithm and really does help a lot. Thank you to everybody who does so. It means so much, and it's totally free. And of course, leave a comment as well if you want to support the channel too whenever I upload this as a video. And if you want to see more from me on the platform, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon so YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload new videos. And of course, finally, if you want to see more from me, be sure to follow my social medias, linked down below in the description, so you can see my stuff on other platforms. And if you want to support me directly because you can afford it and you feel like it, then consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some merch through the Streamlabs link down below in the description. Regardless of how you support the stream, though, I really do appreciate it, and as always, I hope you have a good one.